I didn't care, man. I wrote a suicide note, set a date, said, you know what, I'm just gonna be done with it, man. But there's a few things I want to do for me before, I end my life. I was an infantryman in the Army. I'm reclassed in the National Guard as a maintenance mechanic on Blackhawks. We were in Baghdad, and our unit was split up into different parts of Baghdad. One of the interpreters had been blown up from one of the other parts of the unit. And when I first saw a corpse, I was like, man, that just happened. Like, I saw that guy just the other day. I think it really hit home for me. Like, I'm really here in more, you know what I mean? And I think it was kind of a turning point for me. Like, you know what? Maybe I'm not as tough as I thought I was. My marriage was rocky all throughout it, and it was just, I married too young, man. We fought, and then Jayla ended up coming up right towards the end when we were deciding that we were gonna split up. And so we thought maybe that'll change something, and it didn't. So, and we stuck it out for so many years, man, just because that's what our grandparents did, and that's what our parents did, and we thought that that's what you do. We loved her, but it didn't change anything as far as my marriage goes and our relationship. I was getting out of the service soon, out of active duty and everything I knew, and I didn't really have anything going for me once I got out, and I just started working as a car detailer, and that was the crappiest job I ever had. But I stayed with my parents for a little while. I ended up moving back with my ex-wife in the house that we had. It was kind of weird because she had her boyfriend coming over every now and then, who's now the father of one of her kids. And so it was a bit awkward. But she eventually told me that she was being abused. I can't have my daughter around that. So the best thing at the time was to move her back where she has more of a support channel in Wisconsin. That's where family is, and that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, was to move my daughter away. And all because some guy wanted to beat up on her, and I mean, it pisses me off now just thinking about it, man, because I'd always had my daughter. So I continued to work, and I just lived out of my car and lived out of a Walmart parking lot for a year. The cops got to know me a little bit because they would check in on me every now and then. They would offer help. I don't know what kind of help. I didn't inquire to it. Hey, man, if you need anything, let us know. It's just I felt like I was falling into a deep hole. I didn't want to talk to anybody. It just became very unsociable. I didn't care anymore. You'd never think anything was wrong with me because I'd just big smile on my face, and everyone thought everything was good. My parents had no idea where I was living. I didn't care, man. I wrote a suicide note, set a date, August 13th, 2019. I didn't know everything was going to change, man. March rolled around of 2019, and my best friend Melissa says, hey, I want to go skydiving for my 30th birthday. And I was like, well, I'd always wanted to go skydiving. I always enjoy doing things with people just to share the experience. We ended up setting it for July when her birthday was. The day of, I was actually a little bit excited to do it. We got to Spaceland Atlanta, and I wasn't even nervous. I was going to do a tandem, and they set me up with Cray Adamson. I had a big smile on my face, but you could never tell that Anything was wrong with me, man. And that's the way I wanted it to be. And so we got up in the plane and we got up to altitude. And I started to get a little bit nervous. I was like, man, this is pretty high up. When we finally got outside and we got stable, everything changed for me. There's something about skydiving that for the first time in 5 years, I'd felt happiness. Like, just the most pure happiness that I've almost felt. Because the only other time I'd felt that happiness was when J-Lo was born. I love that kid to death. I'd gripped a little bit of happiness and I knew I had to hold on to it. I feel like I started to become more interested in things and I started feeling like me again. Skydiving has brought me a new family. Kevin Purdy over at Spaceland and Craig, those guys really took me in, not just the two of them, but the entire staff over at Spaceland Atlanta. And they knew that I wanted to do this, and they did everything they could to help me along with it. If I could help one person, it would be completely worth myself to put my story out there. All the grit and grime and all the stupid things that I've done, what's the worst that's gonna come of it? Maybe I'll be a little embarrassed about a few things, maybe not. But somebody else's life is a little bit more important than me feeling like I'm going to be embarrassed by telling my story and telling people I was at a very weak part of my life. There are things out there, people out there that can bring happiness into your life. I think it's very important you keep searching for that. If you're breathing, you're fighting. Go skydiving. Just go.